Union is in 1 week, and despite COVID cases dropping precipitously across the country and virtually all of these lawmakers being vaccinated, Democrats are now mandating, still, a bunch of safety theater for the State of the Union. Speaker of the House Nancy Pelosi wants everyone tested upon arrival, spaced far apart, hand sanitized, wearing fitted medical masks, and violators, of course, risk fines or removal. Pelosi, interestingly, claims that all of this will prove to the American people that the vaccines work, which I'm sort of struggling with. I'm not even sure she's trying to be coherent anymore. She's just doing whatever she wants. Alex, on the State of the Union, I actually want to ask you a political question, not about the COVID theater, but the Republican Party announced today it'll be the governor of Iowa, Kim Reynolds, who will give the response. I was advocating for, lobbying for Glenn Youngkin for a number of reasons down in Virginia, but this is a decision that's been made by the party bosses. She's an accomplished governor in a red-ing state, a female, obviously. Your thoughts about this pick?
I think it's a great pick. I think that this is a governor that showed strength during the pandemic, and not just with respect to lockdowns and mandates, but also when it came to keeping key sectors of the economy and key manufacturing facilities open so that the rest of the country could be fed and could be well cared for. And so I think that she provides a glimpse into what real leadership kind of looks like and what it looks like in a Republican Party that is changing and I think is moving towards capturing more of suburban women in the upcoming midterms who are fed up with the school policies, the COVID policies, the inflation, everything affecting the household. Well,
Senator Tim Scott set a high bar last year for sure. We'll see how this plays out. Kevin, yes. So look, I don't necessarily think that Pelosi cares that some of this stuff is bad science, like the 6 feet apart thing. Hand sanitizer, what, 2 years into this, it's airborne. They're still doing this stuff. Set aside the bad science. Shouldn't they be concerned, your party, shouldn't you guys be concerned about the bad politics, the bad optics of this?
Yeah, I mean, certainly the optics are critical with a speech like this. But listen, a lot of these regulations and guidance is coming from the attending physician of the House. We know that I think the median age of Congress is 87 years old. They all have pre-existing conditions for the most part.
I believe it's 104.
We got to keep these folks alive. So a lot of the guidance is coming from the attending physician. It's not Speaker Pelosi. It's not Kevin McCarthy. It's the attending physician's office with the masking policy, with the testing policy. I'd love to see a chamber filled. I love the pomp and circumstance. I mean, you and I are political nerds with Stephen here.
At some point, you actually have to say no to the guidance. The CDC would have us wearing masks indefinitely to keep us healthy all the time. The guidance doesn't have to be the rules.
Well, sure. Again, part of this is carrying out not just the guidance, but the rules set forth by this attending physician, whose primary focus, the attending physician would probably love to have plexiglass around every seat to keep them alive.
The rules, though, ultimately, right? And I think they're kind of
hiding
behind that person.
I totally understand it.
Kevin makes a good point.
I'm just happy that we're back in the chamber, and every member is going to be there, hopefully.
Perhaps. So, Stephen, when it comes to Biden's messaging, a week from tonight, I've seen some reports out there that the Democrats are saying, oh, this is a big pivot point for him. It's been a rough go, but he gets to sort of reset the conversation. Is that wishful thinking? I mean, is the State of the Union still the type of big megaphone event that can turn events or at least turn political fortunes around? Or is that kind of an anachronism at this point?
You know, I'm an incredibly jaded American, but I still get excited about the State of the Union to a certain extent because it is a moment where you can speak to everybody and reset things a little bit. And if Biden was reading David Axelrod, formerly of the Obama administration in the New York Times last week, he very, eloquently made an argument that he needs to embrace the politics of humility and listen to the American people, admit that the government has gotten things wrong and that the trust is broken and they need to reset. But instead, you're going to have people behind him wearing N95s, probably spraying their desks with Lysol. And then you've got gates and fencing all around the Capitol building again out of just this misplaced fear of the American people.
It's a spectacle. It's a spectacle. Again, and I think most Americans look at this and say, we're not living this way. Who are these people? It's totally out of touch for a number of reasons. Well, there was no Olympic glory for NBC in China. The network saw the lowest rated Olympics ever recorded during this year's Winter Games in Beijing. TV viewership, listen to this, reportedly dropping 42% from 4 years ago. This comes after last year's Tokyo Olympics in the summer drew a previous record low, at least since NBC began broadcasting Summer Games in 1988. The AP called the whole thing this year a disaster. And of course, many controversies clouded the Genocide Games before they even began, including the diplomatic boycotts over China's many myriad human rights violations. Then, as competition unfolded, a Russian figure skater was allowed to compete after a positive drug test, sparking outrage, leading to a meltdown on the ice. And then scenic nuclear cooling towers were photographed next to a snowboarding jump. Isn't that beautiful? Scenic indeed. And athletes had to, the whole time, grapple with insane COVID rules. It was a mess. So shouldn't the Olympics be held to higher standards and at least be held in better countries? Stephen, I mean, the ratings are in. They're terrible, as I mentioned. How much of that, in your estimation, is a political statement by the American people saying, you know, it's just too gross. We can't do this with communist China. And how much, because that's me, that was my position this year. Yeah. I wasn't going to watch. But how much of it was other factors like, you know, the time difference and diminished TV viewership overall and that kind of thing?
It's really important to acknowledge that there are two equal truths here. One, which is what you just mentioned, is that this is the trend of all sort of network television events over time. Every single grand event suffers from this decline year over year for a variety of just market-driven reasons. But I also have to be honest and say that I love the Olympics. I always watch them, and I did not watch them this year purely out of spite. I'm exhausted, I'm angry, and the fact that this was held in China and we're still dealing with this thing and we're just supposed to pretend like everything is okay when it is not, I just didn't want to watch it.
Yeah.
And I know I'm not alone with a lot of other Americans who felt that way.
Yeah, I wouldn't be a part of it. And I prefer the Winter Olympics. I love the hockey.
Me too.
I don't even mind the figure skating, and I miss, I guess, that whole drama. Alex, is it wrong or spiteful for me to kind of be glad that the Olympics performed this poorly? I mean, I saw the international press slammed the games as a joyless disaster. Is it okay to feel good that this big PR coup for China kind of backfired?
Well, if you're wrong, then I don't want to be right, because I also feel glad that this entire charade really got the treatment it deserved. And this is, you know, this bears no reflection on our great American athletes who trained so hard to be there. This is everything about the politics of the International Olympic Committee and the decision to hold this where they did. I mean, there are a few things that I enjoy more than watching the figure skating competitions every 4 years, and the fact that when I would see it even pop up, it'd be right in front of me. Even though I wasn't watching network television, I was watching Hulu, and you know, it would come up just as a promotional thing. I just didn't want to watch it because I thought about the phoniness. I thought about the woke companies in this country who protect China, who censor for China, who gaslight the American people about everything that they have done, from COVID to genocide. Mm-hmm. And I just was disgusted. And so, yeah, you know, I'm glad that it seems like basically that the facade is starting to come apart here.
Yeah, the comeuppance arrived. Very quickly, Kevin, I saw the medal count. In first place by far was Norway? I guess a lot of that was a biathlon or something. You a big biathlon guy, Kevin?
Don't I look like it, Guy? That's
I don't know what a biathlon guy looks like, actually.
I'm more of a curling guy. I think that's my sport.
Yes,
with the brooms. But listen, you know, I saw a poll by Morning Consult that said that 30% of Americans that chose not to watch the Olympics were because specifically it was held in China.
Yes, a lot of people.
So we are united on this panel, the four of us, in not watching and participating specifically because it was in China, which was a disgrace.
Unity here on the panel to wrap things up. Guys, appreciate it. Alexandra, Kevin, Stephen, great work. And coming up here, Mitt Romney tried to warn the world about Russia a decade ago. He was laughed off the stage by President Obama. Remember that? Well, are Democrats now eating their words on the Russian menace? Molly Hemingway here to break it down next.